sipping first because my voice always goes out whenever I do these. And what I mean by these is when I just talk and talk and talk. And we're going to talk and talk and talk. We're going to talk about fashion. So the first thing I want to talk about is fast fashion. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there is a haul within this. And the important thing about fast fashion that we must discuss is some of you may be new and some of you might have been here before and you've heard this story a bazillion times before. But to those of you who are new, I think it's important that this is something that you hear and know about me, because the reason that I go into these fashion hauls, particularly with fast fashion companies, is because I think it's important that you learn how to, and this is if you are in a financial situation to where you cannot afford clothing. And this was a situation that I was in for a pretty good chunk of my life. And through that time, there was a lot of trial and error where I learned how to, and I know this is going to sound like an oxymoron, but I learned how to shop sustainably via fast fashion. Sounds weird, right? I'm going to show you how that works. So what I mean by that, what I mean by shopping sustainably by way of fast fashion is making smart choices. And I know a lot of you are thinking, well, if you want to shop sustainably, then surely you wouldn't be shopping fast fashion. Far be it from me to give you crap for it. It's a good thing to know that there are people that don't have to know that struggle. However, there's a lot of us that did. And there are very many reasons as to why a person would have to rely on fast fashion. And myself, I was on my own, living on my own, had my own apartment. I had a roommate, but living on my own since I was about 19 years old. And my father died when I was young, and a lot of people, when they move out of their home, be it for college, they get an apartment, you always have that safety net. Not everybody, but many will have their safety net, be it like their family. If something happens, they don't have money for groceries, or something dire, you find yourself in a health crisis, for example, you always have those people to fall back on, or those things. I did not have those resources. I was alone. So it's a scary place to be. And when you're in that situation, there are hard choices to be made. Like, I did not have health insurance. And there were times where I had to make the choice, okay, I'm clearly sick. I need antibiotics. Do I go to the doctor or do I eat this week? And that was a serious conundrum to have to deal with. It's scary every time I think about it. And I know that there are people that are in that situation now, but being in that situation, what do you do when it comes time to needing clothing? And it's not a matter of, oh, I just love fashion so much, I must have it. No, it's like, I don't want to walk around naked in these streets. That's really what it's all about. And there are a lot of times, like, say, for example, you have a job. They make you supply your own uniform. They're like, well, the uniform here is like white button-down top and black pants. Off you go. Go get it. And you're doing that on your own dime. So there are a lot of kind of reasons as to why fast fashion is kind of important. So you have the financial reasons that I kind of outlined when I had to. You also have people nowadays who are on fixed incomes, and their fixed incomes are kind of calculated down to where their funds are allocated to specific things by the penny. And that doesn't leave much room for a lot of other things. And if they make the slightest misstep, like, say, for example, throw down $100 on a dress, that could mean not paying their electric bill or paying for a very important medication. That's another thing. There are people who have chronic health conditions and are paying a lot of money for health care. Again, don't have that kind of money. So another reason is, why don't people just go to thrift stores if you don't have the money? Here's the thing. There are people who live in thrift store dead zones, meaning that either you don't have them in your area, meaning that the ones that you do have are absolutely horrible and have things like grandma clothes that are really not usable, or they have things that are just not in your size. There are people who are plus size, and anybody who's plus size, ever been to a thrift store? Hard to find stuff in plus. Another reason, why don't you just sew? Why can't you just make your own clothes? Easier said than done. I make my own clothes now, but it took me many years to learn actually how to get it right, and I'm still not great. I still suck at making sleeves. I can't do a sleeve to save my life, and the ones that I do, it would make designers angry, but I know I still have a lot of learning to do. Sewing machines, very expensive. So to where a person may want to try to make their own clothes and do the best that they can, the whole concept of buying a sewing machine, it's not easy. And learning to sew by hand, especially if you're trying to do a pattern by hand, that takes a lot of time where a lot of people might not have. What if they're one of these people with a chronic health condition and they're trying to sew with their hands and they're arthritic? Doesn't really work. So there are a lot of reasons as to why, and I'm sure a lot of these people probably have kind of tried to explore these avenues and it's led them to be in this place. So whereas nowadays we know fast fashion as places like, say, Nasty Gal, Romwe, Shein, I was utilizing fast fashion. It was places that were brick and mortar stores. It was places like Rainbow, Mandy, 579, and we still had Forever 21, H&M, we had, which was a little bit more pricey, but Joyce Leslie, those kinds of places. However, the fact that they were brick and mortar stores does not in any way change where the clothing came from. The only thing that's different is nowadays the medium. Whereas we can walk into a physical store back in the day to pick these things up, when it comes to now, you just kind of go on the website and you fill your cart. And the method is different. The place where your clothing is coming from, exactly the same as back then. So I was utilizing fast fashion in a much different way. So through the years, I made a lot of mistakes by way of buying things from the store and having them fall apart on me. And that wasn't really conducive to, say, trying to live on my own. So having to constantly sew things back together, you learn how to kind of shop in ways to where you can prolong the life of these clothes. And that's what I did. I learned what fabrics to look for. I learned what cuts to avoid. I learned, for example, stay away from zippers at all costs. And if you must, it has to be a specific kind of zippers and never the concealed zippers. So there are all those little things and all those little tips that I learned along the way that took these fast fashion pieces that people tend to kind of use as throwaway nowadays, which makes me crazy. And I know you probably know what I'm referring to. So what I see a lot of, and this is the exact opposite of what I'm trying to promote when it comes to having to utilize fast fashion, because when I do hauls and I try to teach you how to do these things by way of fast fashion, I'm looking at fast fashion as something like, for example, the ramen diet. When you go to the dollar store and you get the case of top ramen, you eat it because you have to and it keeps your stomach full. But in the meantime, once you start getting in a better position financially, then you start buying vegetables and you start buying fruit and then you eat better. Fast fashion is no different. You utilize fast fashion for the time where you need it. It serves its purpose. Utilize it for as long as you need it. However, once you get into a place financially where you don't need it anymore, you can start buying better clothing. You can start supporting independent designers. But until then, it's not financially viable when you're on that type of budget to be able to throw down, say, $75 on a pair of pants from an independent designer, whereas they're probably beautiful and you're supporting this independent artist at the same time. That's groceries right there. So it's a matter of navigating those periods in your life, but just know that once you're outside that period, that's kind of where your support of fast fashion should kind of end. I'm not here to tell you what to do. That's just my opinion and my view on the whole thing. It should really end once you're in a position where you're actually okay and you don't have to rely on it just so you can not be naked. So the frivolous thing that really makes me crazy is I see a lot of influencers who clearly are affluent. They don't want for anything. They're not struggling by any means, but they are throwing down quite a huge amount of cash on fast fashion, places like Romwe and Shein, and they're just getting truckloads of stuff delivered, and their turnover is so high when it comes to the amount of stuff that they get that they're able to basically change their whole wardrobe like mid-season, and they're getting all of these clothes, and then a couple months later they're dumping it. It's just gone. And then they're getting new things. And that's completely unnecessary. And that's the kind of thing that we need to kind of avoid. These are people that can afford to support independent designers. Now, granted, they probably don't know better. I'm hoping that they don't know better. But that being said, given some of the comments that I've received, I'm sure people have probably told them So in the meantime, I was contacted by both Ramwi and Xian, and they sent me a bunch of free stuff. Now, they didn't pay me to do this video, but they did send me a bunch of stuff. They wanted me to do these videos separately because they both contacted me separately. However, they're both the same company. So we're going to do it all together. So what I want to do is I wanted to kind of focus on a particular style. And I wanted to focus on Kindergoth because I wanted to kind of show you what Kindergoth fashion is. Some of you may have heard that term before, and I've noticed that when people try to do a Kindergoth style, what they do is they kind of focus on Lolita instead, but they're kind of calling it Kindergoth, and it's very different than that. So what I'm going to do is the things that I got from both places, I'm going to pick them apart bit by bit. And I made sure to let them know that this is what I was going to do. And I tell them every time, but they don't seem to care. I'm going to give you an honest review. I'm not going to big it up. I'm not going to tell you this is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. This is adorable. If there's something wrong with it, I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you exactly what that is. And I might have, because there's one there that I've had for about a month now. I haven't opened it. I don't remember what's in it. I do remember that I was going with the whole Kindergoth theme in my head, but I may have broken some of my cardinal rules, and that is zippers. I always say no zippers, and I'll explain why if I come across any. Now, the Ramwi bag is already open. I like to not look at these, and I like to kind of go in it blind. But the Ramwi one is opened because this happened. So naturally, I kind of had to go in and inspect and make sure everything was okay. Good thing that FedEx flipped the package upside down and took the picture when it was emailed to me, just to let me know that the parcel was fine, only to flip it over and find that it was completely ripped open. So fortunately, things seem to be okay, but I'm going to go through right now and we're going to go bit by bit. So the first one that we're going to be doing is the Ramwi one, and that's because everything is open. This one I remember a bit more of what's inside, and the reason that I remember is because I was curious as to how certain pieces looked in person versus what they looked like on the website. Because I never go for graphic because I feel like that's a little bit too easy and that's cheating, and I like things that are a little bit more of a challenge. You know, you kind of put things together and make it your own. Prints get dated. You know, you'll get something with a print on it, and then eventually it runs its course and you're like, I don't like this anymore. But things that are solid, they don't date, and you can just kind of have it for as long as you possibly can until it falls apart and you run it into the ground, and it just lasts longer. But again, like things like prints are dated. So the first thing, this is what was hanging out of the bag. I had to take it out. It is a pixie hem. It is a pixie hem double layer netted skirt, and it is spiderweb. Here we go. Here's the bottom. So one pro that I will say is I like the fact that first, the waistband has little crosses on it. I can appreciate that. That's cute. But it's not something so over the top to where it's like, you know, religious iconography on it and stuff. That's a little bit too much for me. But it's subtle. It's black on black. And it's a wider waistband, and that's something that's really important. The thinner the waistband, the least flattering it is. You want to go for the widest waistband possible for maximum comfort and also just for general looks. I like the cut of this because it reminds me of skirts from the 80s. Another thing that I can appreciate is they serged the ends of this. See this? See that end? This is something you'd refer to as lettuce edging. See how it's kind of like this? So the fact that they serged this is actually really going to protect it, because if they left this raw, the fact that it's netted, it would start to come apart very easily, and it wouldn't look tattered. It wouldn't look tattered in that good way. It would fall apart on you. So this I can appreciate. There is an underlayer. They serged that too? Okay, so the underlayer, on the other hand, they've serged it as well. And again, spiky layers. This is like Halloween fabric. Did you ever get a Scream costume or a Grim Reaper costume, that material that the cloak is in? It's exactly this. That's exactly what you're getting underneath. Now, if this was the main layer, I would be roasting this thing to no end. Fortunately, it's underneath, so you really can't see. And it wasn't exactly the most expensive thing. So I don't think that this is a money waster. I think that it's well made. And other than the fact that the inside is made out of a Grim Reaper costume from Party City, the exterior is okay. The shape is okay. I'm getting really nitpicky now where I'm like, well, that's not straight. But where you really want to see it straight is at the front. And what I mean by straight is you want to make sure that arc is a perfect arc and not like this. So let's see here. Get this out of the way. So that's not bad. Okay. So is this worth the money? I would say yes. This will last you worth the money. As with everything, we're going to talk about care instructions at the end, because don't listen to the care instructions that come with this. Listen to me and anybody else who's ever had any items that they've prolonged for X amount of time. Okay, I know what this is. So this is a pair of pants that they had, and I was very curious to see what they looked like in person, because they looked like one thing, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure they're not as great in person. And I was correct. So they are kind of bell bottoms. I'm going to show you a picture up here. So it has a wider waistband, which I can appreciate. And the reason that I like a wider waistband is because anything thinner, it accentuates the little pooch that girls tend to have. And there is nothing wrong with having a pooch. We all have it. However, that doesn't mean that we don't appreciate something that doesn't make it stick out. So we prefer things that make it a little bit more inconspicuous. So I do appreciate that. This looked in the picture like a nice kind of cotton jersey. Cotton jersey, it is not. What do we got here? This is fabric content. Polyester, 95% polyester and then 5% spandex. So we have the polyester and then the 5% spandex for stretch. So that's why we are stretchy. Thank you, spandex. So what kind of stretch do we have here? So we have horizontal stretch. So it stretches this way, which is good. That's where we want it to stretch and not this way. Sometimes they make the mistake and do it the wrong way around where it stretches this way. But let's face it, it's not like we are going to be like, you know, you're going to eat a cake and get 4 feet taller. Can you imagine? This is, I found something stupid. Okay, the waistband on the inside is half the size of the actual band that they've sewed in here. Okay, the width of it is about the length of my index. However, the elastic band that they put inside, that mind you is like free flowing inside here, is this big. So this is the elastic band. The elastic band itself is this wide. However, the waistband that they put in is that wide. And yeah, that alone, I do not recommend these. Prior to noticing that, I would have been like, yeah, this is going to cause some serious issues. But just because, let's look at the print on this. There it goes inside the seam, the graphic of the snake. So what that means is they really didn't pay any kind of special attention to preserve the nature of the design when sewing it. So like part of the design is kind of stuck off in there. That's actually one of the ways that you're able to tell whether or not you have a real or fake designer bag. And that is when it's made with one layer of fabric, for example. Like let's say you have that leather of a monogram. Let's just say, for example, it's Louis Vuitton. And you have the one layer of the fabric. It's all done in one, never done in pieces. And if at any point any of that monogram is cut off, it's not real. The genuine designer would never cut off any graphic print of any kind within a seam. So it's always going to be dead center, and it's always going to be cut off exactly where it needs to be, and it's always going to be done with one layer of fabric. One of the ways that you can tell whether or not a designer bag is fake. That is if you decide you ever want to get a designer bag and want to see if it's real or fake or not. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is, I shall stand up and show you. You're definitely going to need something underneath this, but I thought that this was very cute, and it is actually quite cute in person. Honestly, I didn't expect it to look as good in person as it really does. Thinner waistband, not a fan, as you know, but yeah. The ruffle goes all the way around. I went with, I believe, a size small in this. Again, this is polyester. Are we surprised? But I think that it's quite well made. It's very simplistic in its design, and I am really looking for criticisms. Okay, here's a criticism. At the bottom here, do you see the lace that they've sewn all the way around in strips, right? Here, 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 etc. So they've done it with just a basic stitch, just the basic little dot stitch, right? However, the one on the very bottom should be secured a lot better than it is, because this is the area that's closest to the floor. This is the area that we risk stepping on it, etc. So this is an area that I would expect it to be affixed with a little bit more care. But they didn't do that here. What they did was they kind of just affixed it with the regular, hopefully you can see this. See, it's the regular stitch. So given that it's close to the floor, and given it's close to a lot of, I guess, the danger zone, we can say, I would expect a little bit more care given to kind of ensure that you're not going to pull this off. It's not going to come apart. It is serged on the inside. How is my hair on this? I shed on everything. But it is serged on the inside, so can't complain. I will say this, when it comes to construction to their stuff, I think that they've been listening to a lot of the criticisms of people, and things have gotten a lot better. So this is a very basic skirt, and I would say go for this, definitely. Just be careful with the bottom, that's all. But I think that this is worth the money, and again, stay tuned for care instructions. There's 2 more left for Romley, and then the other bag is Shein. Okay, so this is the bodysuit that I got to kind of go with those pants, because it had snakes. I don't normally go for sets, but I was very curious as to what this would look like. This one, honestly, here. I will tell you this, that this one does look better than the pants do. Again, same fabric. Same issue with the fabric. It's a polyester. It feels to me more like kind of a brushed viscose than anything else. It doesn't have that cheap polyester feel. It's the same as the pants, but I'm going to try these on. I'm going to do a try and show you what it looks like, because I am also really curious of the monstrosity of a waistband situation that is going to kind of come out of the look between that, because I don't know if my feelings are going to change about that, but I do not like the fact that they didn't use the same size. Why wouldn't you put the same size elastic in there? Like, it doesn't make any sense to use a thinner piece of elastic for a waistband that's so much thicker. Okay. So one of the things I like about this, see how it's sewn here? It's a strap that doesn't go from here to here and is just sewn with a few bits that end here, which means if it's not sewn properly, if you do like a particularly boisterous dance move or like an aggressive sneeze, it doesn't mean it's going to snap and then boob is out. This, the strip goes all the way around and it's sewn completely around like this. Essentially what that means is you're going to have to do a lot more for this to snap on you, which I can appreciate. So oddly enough, I would recommend the bodysuit over the pants, but I am curious to see what they look like together. I'm not big on sets. I know I've said it before, but I'm really big on designers and I love fashion. I love Alexander McQueen. I love Marchesa, Junya Watanabe, Yohji Yamamoto, Junya Watanabe. I have more than that. I think there's one more thing with Romwe. I knew there was one more thing, like this is the one thing that I remembered. So this is, yeah. So that lace layered skirt that I showed you with the strips that went across, the one I was a little bit like about with how they affixed it to the bottom, I got this top to go with it. Let's look at this first. Let us look at it. Okay, and this is a perfect example of what I was explaining before. A strap that's affixed by going to the front and then to the back and nothing in between. This is something where if you go all aggro for whatever reason, you could have some issues. But it actually looks like it's sewn on pretty well, but you never know. I don't know what you do. So it's kind of like a little boob tube, meaning like straight across. And I'll try to show you here. It's velvet, and I actually really quite like it. I'm not a big, like, look at me, I have a bow kind of person, but I don't know, I kind of like that. It's kind of cute. Maybe I'm changing in my old age, who knows. So the lace on this is elasticated. This is velvet. Criticisms. If you are one of those people who can get away with not wearing a bra, God, I'm so jealous of you people. But if you're one of those people that can get away with not wearing a bra, do not do that with this if you get this, because I don't know if you can see on camera, there is a transparency to it, and all it takes is one flash of light, a little bit of sunlight, and your puppy's noses are going to be out for the world to see, and I don't know if you are ready for that. So I would recommend wear a bra under this. But other than that, I would recommend this. It's incredibly inexpensive. Again, if you care for this properly, you wash it, and do not ever put these things in the dryer. You can have this for a long time. So this is one thing that I would recommend. That's one thing I would definitely recommend. I don't like this automatically off the bat. I do not like this. What is this? Okay, I know what this is. Okay, so this was supposed to be kind of a baby doll dress, again, in the vein of sort of kindergoth, and it had that sort of feel to it. It had that kind of also 90s simplistic baby doll dress that you would wear with a pair of fishnets and a pair of Doc Martens. And okay, so first I'm going to show you my thought process. This is where my head was at. And I'm sure you can see where my head was at. So despite being able to see where my head is at, where Romwe was at, on the other hand, was a completely different planet, because the fabric on this, it's costume. It's Halloween costume material. You can hear it. If you don't like certain sounds of certain fabrics, I'm going to forewarn you. I'm going to make a sound right now, but you're going to hear this fabric. Ready? Eh! I hate that. I hate that. I hate it so much. Okay. So I'm not going to recommend this. This is a no-go from me. If you like the cut and style of the dress, which I do, I like it, and you can handle that fabric, by all means. Otherwise, this is 100% polyester. It is made like a Halloween costume. There's wrinkles in it already, and I don't even know if I would recommend steaming that, because if you took an iron to this, I feel like it would melt it. I will put links to everything in the description if you want to have a look and see it on the website, but otherwise, again, for me, that's a no. Hydration. That fabric made me thirsty. pressing on. Oh, by the way, let me see if I can find it. This is for another time. However, somebody brought something to my attention about lead being in the clothing that is sold by both Romwe and Shein. We don't like that. So I didn't think that it would be applicable for a whole video, so I'm probably going to do a YouTube short and a TikTok as well, because I want to test it and see. I'm going to test a whole bunch of different things, but I'm going to do like control and variables as well. I'm going to test some other things that I've gotten from like H&M and I haven't touched yet or worn, because I get a lot of t-shirts from there to DIY for my my Etsy store. So I'll probably use that as like the variable. I'll try that as well. But if it comes up with anything, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But that kind of information did not sit well with me, so I picked this up as well. Once I put this order in, got this on Amazon. Again, I don't really remember what's in here. I just know that I went into getting these things with Kindergoth in mind. And it's been at least a month since. So let's see what we got. First thing is white and very big. Very heavy fabric. Normally you don't see that. To me, I don't know what I was thinking. This doesn't read Kindergoth. This reads actually a bit more ethereal to me. And I'm smiling because I'm kind of a fashion junkie, and when I see things that I like, it makes me very happy. And I like this. Why is this so well made? You know something's wrong when you see something so well made and you get suspicious. So I did break one of my rules. See the zipper? Unless you know that the designer is a skilled designer, it is somebody who has their own shop, etc., then they're going to stand behind their work, and it's probably going to be hand done. But when it comes to zippers, where it's the very thin zipper, kind of like that, you see how the fabric is so close to it? The problem is you run the risk of catching the fabric in the zipper. And when that happens, you could really destroy the garment. So up here it's a little bit thicker, so it's going to be harder to catch. But down here, it's more sort of billowy kind of chiffon. So you have more of a likelihood it's layered with chiffon and a sort of wannabe brocade, which is not brocade, it's just sort of kind of like a tablecloth. But that being said, it's not exactly crappily made either in that department. The fabric is quite good. It's sturdy. But now the issue, which you see the seam right here, kind of going down this way. That. This is where the chiffon has been sewn to the faux brocade. And we have kind of like little threads coming out. It's where the zipper is, and what happens is it just gets really wonky, and I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of nitpicking at this point. The thing that concerned me about it is because it is stemming entirely from the zipper, and you know that I am very suspicious of zippers because they can make or break a garment. Honestly, I think that this is, other than that, it is very well made. It's all serged on the inside, and something that I can appreciate is, look at the bust. I'll know this better when I put it on, but Prior to that, Shein seemed to have no concept of boobs, and they would just sew in a bust that was like that wide, and you would have a seam going right across your boobs in an area that should be underneath, and it makes you look like you have 4 boobs, 2 on each side. But it looks like they have kind of taken boobage into account, and they've made it a little bit bigger. There are darts inside. See these? Where the boobs are? See that seam right there? That right there is a dart, and when you sew in a dart, it takes a fabric that's straight and it actually kind of causes it to do this, kind of buckle outward. And you want it to buckle outward here because if it was flat, it wouldn't fit your chest. But if it buckles here, it actually forms around. So that right there is promising. They took that into account. They made the bust bigger, and they did sew in darts. So it is clear that they're making allocations for boobage, which is good. I do like this, honestly. I'm going to say yes to this one. If I change my mind after I put it on and find anything structural, I will let you know. But as for right now, thumbs up on this one. I'm not throwing these on the floor. I put an ottoman right there, and I have very good aim. As you can see, I went for colors here, but when you're going kindergoth, you do not spare colors. You can, but why? Okay. This is a very kind of Y2K cut. Floral print. Floral print, and the way they made it look on the website was kind of like a burnout velvet, which I really do like. Burnout velvet it is not. So we have kind of a stretch. Let's see, bell sleeves. We have, it feels kind of like a stretch polyester fabric, and you've had an additional kind of polyester fabric sewn over the top. So instead of being a burnout velvet, how the hell did they do that? It's not sewn. No, it's not sewn onto it. Yes, it is sewn onto it. No, it's not. How did they do this? I want to be able to explain to you what I'm seeing here and how it's done, because I don't want anything structural to happen to it because of something that I missed. It looks like, okay, this is just the fabric itself. So it wasn't, so it's not one fabric sewn onto another. It's just the fabric itself that is like this. So, okay, it's not sewn on. Whew, I feel better. But they're trying to make it look like burnout velvet. Burnout velvet is not exactly the most expensive thing. It's beautiful, but I feel like they could have kind of gone for it, but they didn't. First bust, wider as well, and the fact that it's wider means that it will accommodate different bust sizes. Again, that was something that kind of Shein really did lack previously. They never took boobies into account, and I like that they are. So it looks like we're not going to have any problems there. It's very elasticated. There's a lot of stretch to this. It has an elastic band sewn in here. How is it sewn inside? We got a good hem going, all serged. There's an underlayer as well, done in the ever decadent Grim Reaper costume fabric. But again, at least it's the underlay. If we see it on the outside, we got problems. I would say for this one, this is a yes for me. If for this one, this would be a yes for me. It's well made. I must see what it looks like on, but it's well made. I might even wear this. I like it. It's well made, and I can't wait to see how that kindergoths and how it fits into the whole aesthetic. So, but yes, that is a yes for me. It is very well made. I still don't understand how they did that with the fabric. I'm intrigued though. What is this? This is a belt. So with their belts, you really can't go wrong. I've never really had any issue, except for right now, because the way that this belt is looking, I don't remember getting this belt, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, this is probably very loud right next to my microphone. Remember when I said I never really had any problem with their belts? I have a problem with this belt. Oh my God. It smells like... You know when you're vacuuming and you get something stuck inside the vacuum, like a sock, and you're like, oh crap, and you grab the sock and you pull it out and it has that kind of weird smell. It's like burning but not, like kind of rubbery. Like concentrated version of this. It's even sharp on the edges, so this is a definite no. Definite no from me here. Wow, I was definitely feeling the white when I was looking for Kindergoth stuff. But I think that's another important principle with Kindergoth, is that layers and fabric are really important. I don't remember ever getting this. But I can see why I would. Zipper alert! We have a very nice underlay in Eau du Grim Reaper fabric in a nude. But again, we can't expect miracles from a lining, just that it's not going to fall apart and it does its job and actually lines. But this is cute. It has a zipper. Big no-no. And the bigger no-no when it comes to zippers, it's when you have this kind of billowy fabric so close to the zipper, especially when it's this kind of concealed zipper and not the one that's so exposed, where it's like this much distance between one side of the fabric to the other. Where it's like this kind of thing, you really run the risk of catching the fabric, and if you're not careful, it can destroy it. Like this. See? But already we have like a loose thread. Now, is that just because they didn't tie it off? Let us see. Yeah, that's just because they didn't tie it off. So that's something I also noticed about them. They leave loose threads a lot. They don't cut the threads off. Something you think that you would do, but other than the zipper issue, which does really concern me because there's like no distance from one side of the street to the other here, and you really can really run the risk of getting the fabric caught. I think this is really well made. I think it's well made. I think it will last you. Just adhere to the kind of care instructions. No! Found a flaw. I just want to kind of go through and make sure that... Found a problem. Look inside there. Do you see how there is the underlay, which is nude, and then the white lace overlay? Do you see underneath? You see that crease? So the underlay has creased inside here. So it should look like this. See? However, we got a crease over here. I would say with this, at your own risk. Other than that, the lace is well made. Everything else is well made. It's well sewn. With regards to structure, you just have stupid issues like that. If you're okay with that whole thing, I would leave that up to you. This is heavy. It's a corset. Oh, okay. Is that for boobies? No. Oh, I see. Okay. for hip. That ain't closing. But I did get a very small one. Yeah, I got an extra small. So that would be why. So I'm kind of a corset snob, and I will pick the crap out of this thing. So it comes with a modesty panel. You have waist tape. It's lined. It's not muslin lined, but they tried to make it look like it's canvas or muslin lined. They kind of went through the cheapy version of doing a well-made corset. Other than that, though, this is surprisingly well-made. They even used good laces. You notice when you get corsets, like kind of bargain corsets online nowadays, the laces are made out of this like little chintzy ribbon. We're like, no, we're going for compression here. We need something sturdy. I want something that you're going to put in a running shoe that you can really tug, not, you know, whatever ribbon they're using, but they're using actual laces now. This, I say, yes. I will know once I wear it because it looks like this might be a little bit flat because it's supposed to kind of show hip. So this looks kind of like a riding corset to me. So it has the boning that goes around this way, which is, yeah, see how it's supposed to go like that? Like a riding corset. I'm very interested to see how that looks. So. I wish Jeannie Nitro was making stuff again, and if she ever does, you are in for a treat. I really adored Jeannie Nitro stuff, and some of the things that she ended up doing, and this reminded me of Jeannie Nitro. And any of you who know her stuff, you'll see why in a second. Crap is this? What in the ever-living? What is this? Oh, it's just thread. False alarm, it was just thread. Okay. I like the velvet. The velvet is good. The cup sleeve sewn in, again, good because they're taking boobs into account. There are darts sewn into the bust, which means they're taking consideration again for fit, which is good. Looks like that's we have a bit of an adjustable strap here going on too. So that's good. So the strap here is adjustable, which will be useful. Just be careful because as you move it, it tilts the metal bit. The tulle here leaves something to be desired because I don't like when it gets all crinkly like that. It's still, I'd say it's very well made. I think honestly, so the sleeves are more of a chiffon. The skirt is tulle. I think it would have been a lot better if they made the skirt the same fabric as the sleeves. But yeah, the contrast doesn't do it any favors. And on the tulle, it's not really like you can, but they didn't end it. They left it raw. How many layers do we have? We have one. They have this white thread everywhere on it too. Two. Underneath it has the underlay that actually has been serged, which is good. At least they've ended it. And it's the same fabric as those pants with the snakes on it and the bodysuit with the snakes on it. So it has that kind of brushed cotton feel, but it's not actually cotton. It's polyester because it feels exactly the same. So, and the other one was polyester. So, is this well made? I would say yes. Very elasticated. There's elastic bands on the inside all over the place. Lots of elastic, look. So this is going to make things comfortable. It's going to work for ease of movement, which is good. The trim is sewn on well. However, it has one of the straps where it's just front to back strap. So it seems okay. You might want to reinforce it just in case. But other than that, I don't think that there are any structural issues. I think that this is okay. The only thing that I don't like is this tulle. I don't like that the straps and the skirt are different. I think that it would have benefited to be the same, and I don't think it would have put them out any to use that for the skirted portion, because this can get like kind of wrinkled and it doesn't look right. But other than that, I'd say it's worth the money, and I'd say you can make it last. Next we have, oh no, I don't like this fabric. So again, this was giving me Genie Nitro vibes when I saw it. You Genie Nitro girls out there who used to get her stuff, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This fabric, ready? It feels a little bit different than that other one that had that kind of feel to it. It feels a little bit more 100% cottony. And it's 100% polyester, but it feels a little bit different. It's not as like insane as the other one. I could probably tolerate this one a little bit more because it doesn't have the same kind of annoying kind of like feel to it. Other than that, I can't see any structural issues with it. It's just the fabric that pisses me off. Honestly, I think that they could have gone better fabric than this. It's a shame because it's a really nice design as well. It has that elasticated back, which again is great for ease of movement. It makes things nice and comfortable. I'll put it on, I'll try it on and see, because the fabric on this one is not as bad as the other baby doll dress. I really want to like this one because of that Genie Nitro nostalgia, so we'll see. I have no idea what this is. I don't know what this is. Okay. I guess I went kind of belt / corset crazy. Okay. So it kind of laces up the sides here. This must not look like whatever I chose on the website because I wouldn't select anything that looked this way. Right away, I'm going to say no on this. I'll put links to everything so you could see it, but this is just, it's so crappily made. I mean, it's fighting to be symmetrical. The stitching is awful. Let me see here. Yeah, you can see the stitching there. Right at the see right there. It's kind of fighting for symmetry. There's just loose threads everywhere. The stitching is terrible. This is, you would be very angry if you purchased that. So if you are stretching your pennies, that would be something that you've wasted your money on, and it's not worth it. What was with me in white dresses that day? Okay. So I do remember what I was thinking with this one. It seemed like a short version of something that I saw Tina Root from Switchblade Symphony wearing way back in the 90s. I saw them play in 1995. Yeah, I think it was 1995 at Wetlands in New York City, and she was wearing this kind of white, if I can find a picture of what she was wearing, I'll show you. And she had gotten a star necklace that night. I remember she thanked somebody. She's like, "Thank you for my star." And she was wearing a star necklace with a dress that looked very similar to this. Only hers was long. And since I was doing Kindergoth And I saw this and it made me remember Switchblade Symphony. It's never a good sign when you get it and the zipper is halfway down when you get it. Let me just check the zipper. I can't believe how many zipper rules I broke with this video, and I want to apologize to you sincerely, because that is one of the things I kind of tell you to not do, is to get zippers, because hopefully you will listen to me instead, like kind of do as I say, not as I do. But if you're really, you know, you're counting your pennies and you really need to be frugal when it comes to buying things and you need things that are going to last, stay away from things with zippers, really. Other than that, there's a lot, I like things that are stretchy, and this has got a lot of stretch to it, so I do quite appreciate that. The fabric is interesting, to say the least. It's crinkly. It doesn't feel cheapy though, and that's something that you tend to worry about when it comes to these places, is that the fabric is just cheapy. We have an underlay to it. I don't have to tell you what it feels like or what it's made out of, because we have a running theme of the liner. So it's lined, which is good. So when we're dealing with anything that has a kind of almost slightly transparent fabric to it, you really want something that has a liner to it. Otherwise, you have to put something underneath it. Okay, that is absolutely everything. Gonna have to give me a second here. I don't know how I made it through that with this headache, but I've been dealing with this headache for about 2 days now, and my medication is just wearing off, so I'm just trying to hydrate. So some things I will say about prolonging these things, because I know I was talking about how we can kind of find that weird juxtaposition between fast fashion and shopping sustainably. So kind of making sure that you care for the items almost as if you're caring for something incredibly delicate and something rare. So as for kind of finding that weird middle ground between shopping sustainably but also shopping fast fashion, a lot of it has to do with how you care for the garments. I would recommend hand washing everything and never, ever, ever use the dryer for anything. Dry it flat, dry it hanging, but never go and put it into a dryer. It's the worst thing that can happen to the fabric. It can either destroy it or reduce its life. If you're going to put your clothing into the washing machine, always wash on cold. You never want to introduce heat, because the introduction of heat to any of these garments, the fabric itself could pretty much deteriorate under that pressure, and it could really just destroy the fabric or the garment in general. So the key to prolonging the life is never apply heat and always dry outside of the dryer. Even if you put the dryer on cold, it ain't worth it. Just hang it. Even if you're hanging it in your house, like hang it in the bathroom, anywhere safe, never put it in the dryer. Another thing is you really want to look at fabric content. Fabric is really important. Polyesters, they're strong. They're going to hold, they're going to keep, but certain polyesters, not all polyesters are created equal, so it really is a gamble. Remember those 2 dresses that I showed you? Both of them were made with 100% polyester, and one of them, I wanted to just exfoliate my hands and just dip them in olive oil just to get that feel off. It was horrifying. But the other one, it was fine. It wasn't as bad. It was tolerable. So you really have to be careful when it comes to things like that. As I said previously, and I really want to reiterate, when it comes to things like fast fashion, it's something that unfortunately a lot of people are forced to rely on. We don't necessarily want to rely on it, but unfortunately we find ourselves in stages of our life where we really have no alternative. Just kind of one of those things that you do when you have to do it, and when you're in a position where you are financially more stable, you're capable, and you're out of that situation, that's when you support your independent designers. And please stay tuned for the try-on portion. However, plans were made, my plans have failed, or they've just become a brand new thing altogether. In this video, I was on day 2 of a skull-busting suboccipital headache that pharmaceutical intervention was simply just taking the edge off just enough for me to function, but leaving behind that brain foggy wooziness that all of you chronic headache/migraine sufferers, you know this all too well. The plan was Kindergoth discussion, followed by carefully chosen items to recreate this visually for you. What arrived versus the effort involved to create this, the stars did not align at all. In addition, my lookbooks require outdoor shooting so that you're able to get that whole head-to-toe look distance-wise, done in a creative way, aka freedom of movement. Unfortunately, daytime outdoor shooting in my yard is not possible at the moment because there's massive construction going on back there, and my attempts in the evening made me look like this. My camera does not like to function at night anymore. I don't know what happened, it just doesn't. So instead, I've done a more constructive take to showcase what these items look like on, despite whether or not I think that they're good or bad. Usually I go accessory and pose heavy, but then this time around I think we're going to focus more on the structure, with musical intervention of course. But the next time, expect full kindergoth.